was an evolution. It wasn't like I decided one day. A couple of years ago, I would have been kind of repulsed by the whole idea. Everywhere, everything you see is monogamy, and you're supposed to meet your other half, your life partner. You're supposed to be together with them for forever. And that just wasn't the case for me. So if you're looking to spend 60, 70 years with someone, there's just no way that that entire time you're going to be aligned in every single way with that person.
So I have some questions.
So since it's like new for all three of you, what if one of them was like, hey, I want to be exclusive to only you? Like, how would, like, have you ever thought about that?
I think if they had the choice, they would both want to be the only partner I have. Everyone's responsible for their own life and their own happiness. So if they weren't happy with the situation, I don't think they should say, oh, I'm using them.
You had mentioned earlier that they're not 100% comfortable with this because they also want to feel like they want to be just with you. And you said that they're doing this to make you happy. So my question is, what are you doing for them that'll make them happy?
If you or one of them chose to have another partner, are you all supposed to talk about it first, or how does it work? Do your parents know? And what do they think if they do know?
You first introduce them. Did you like go to dinner? Like, hey guys, I got reservation for 3. You guys eat candlelight dinner.
I have to ask.
Interesting. Yeah.
How is that with like? How is there 2 other guys at the same party? Like, how do you cater to 2 other guys in the same party?
Oh, that's true.
I'm just curious.
But yeah, the first time they both hung out.
Do you guys have a little hierarchy? Are you queen, Miss Queen, and they're your male bees, or
like they're aware that yes, I am dating other girls because I'm not ready to commit right now.
But are you fluid bonding with all of them?
No comment.
That was going to be my next question. Do you want kids, and is that a possibility in a poly relationship?
Let's say I grant you that, olive branch, that it is consensual and they're grown adults, they make their own decisions. Do you think that perhaps in some way, you said it yourself, you feel a little bit of guilt? Do you think you have, in a way, a kind of a moral, ethical obligation to not involve them in this situation? All right, everybody, welcome to P.M.S. podcast. This is part 2 of our polyamory debate, discussion, conversation. And I'm here. I'm Vincent.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Sirkan from Central Jersey.
Armando from New York City.
Ray from Jersey.
I'm Bert. I'm from South Jersey. Happy to be here.
All right, so Bert, thanks for coming on. Welcome to our show. You are our honored guest for today. And you're going to continue the conversation with us. I think it was cool because the last time we had this discussion, a male person had give his perspective, what it's like to be in a polyamorous relationship. And now we have you. We have the female perspective. And so I guess you can start it off about how you got into it. Like, tell us a little bit of exactly how you entered into this community, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So I definitely didn't just decide one day that I wanted to have 2 partners. So right now I have 2 partners. But for the longest time, I was in a monogamous relationship. So it was with one of the partners that I currently have. So we've actually been together for almost 8 years. So we met when we were in our early 20s. And we had been living together for about 3 years. Everything was going fine. And then actually kind of from one day to the next, he came up to me and said, I can't do this anymore. Turned out he had cheated on me. It totally blindsided me. He left me. And I was kind of just left totally alone because he was my big emotional support system. He was my best friend. He was really my everything. I didn't really have a whole lot outside of him, I realized. And then he ended up moving back in a couple weeks later, and we were trying to work things out over the next year or so. But ultimately, after a year, I ended up cheating on him. And so we broke it off again. It was kind of a rocky ride. And then in that next year, I spent a lot of time exploring different relationships. I was on a lot of different dating apps, meeting a lot of different people. And one of those people that I met is my other current partner. So initially, I had tried to work it out monogamously with just him for a couple months. But we were really not on the same page. We weren't really in the same place in our lives. So it didn't end up working out at the time. That was almost a year ago now that we called it off. And I got back together with my original partner who I'd been together with for a while. But I still felt a really strong connection with my other partner as well. So for a long time, for several months, we were just kind of trying to sort things out because we obviously had feelings for each other, but that's obviously not really socially accepted. So first we were just friends, but we were spending pretty much every week we spent the whole day together. At a certain point, we were sleeping over. So it was clearly more than friends. And we were just trying to negotiate that. And at a certain point, we both said, I love you. And it was in a romantic way. And at that point, I was kind of forced to kind of define the relationship. I'm kind of against labels. But it was really then that I realized this is more than friends, and maybe I need to reconsider polyamory and kind of the possibility of being in love with more than one person. So again, it was an evolution. It wasn't like I decided one day. A couple of years ago, I would have been kind of repulsed by the whole idea. I would have thought, I'm doing something wrong here. This can't be good, because everywhere, everything you see is monogamy, and you're supposed to meet your other half, your life partner. You're supposed to be together with them for forever, and that just wasn't the case for me. So it really took a lot of self-reflection, and I feel like I learned how to communicate a lot better and really figure out what I want for myself and what both of my partners really want and need. So
So I have some questions.
mhm.
Jealousy is a very big part of, men get jealous very easily. So to me,
Yeah.
how did you navigate through that aspect? Making them both feel comfortable with the relationships you have.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say they're still not entirely comfortable with the situation. I think if they had the choice, they would both want to be the only partner I have. But we've set some boundaries to where they're both more okay with it than not, because I think they both want me to be happy, and so they recognize that that takes some sacrifices and some compromises. But we kind of have it worked out to where I live together with one partner, and then I spend at least one full day a week with my other partner, and I sleep over every time. So they both feel like they're getting a good amount of time with me, and I don't share any of the private details of my relationships with either of them with the other person, just because I don't want to deliberately make anyone feel bad.
Do your partners have metamors?
Not at the time. I'm not against it. So it's not
Hmm.
like I'm saying, oh, I get to have two partners, but like they only get to be with me. I'm totally open to them in the future potentially having their own partners as well. I think it would be tough and it would be an adjustment, but I think polyamorous relationships are very fluid, and you kind of have to work through some difficult emotions as you're going through it.
Yeah, no, I give you guys a lot of credit because I've done research on it. I only understand it through articles, reading Reddit, conversations, and there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of drama, a lot of complications. So to make something like this work, it really takes a mature person. So, I definitely, give credit to all three of you. I mean, it's definitely a difficult situation, and the fact that it's fluid. Again, right now it's probably stable, but more than likely, in the future, you're going to have some
Yeah.
changes and extra partners and whatnot because it's just part of the. I guess based on what I've heard, yeah, it's gonna change, and I think that's why most of us, find it so difficult to understand it. I personally understand it. I've actually done research on it. I showed some interest in it, but it's not for me. I think again, I always believe you should try everything at least once, and if you like it, keep doing it. My
Try it,
other
man.
question, you want? So my question is, so can you actually love two people equally, or is there a need to love both partners equally? You know what I mean? Like that's the big, those are some of the questions because everybody gets jealous. So it's, do you
Yeah.
love both partners equally? I mean, like exactly the same. Is that even possible?
Well, they're not the same person, and the feelings I have towards them are different. I think it's the
Yep.
same as loving your children. You're not going to love them exactly the same, but I think it would be hard to decide that you love this
Yeah.
child more than this other one. So they both provide different things for me. So one of my partners is more someone that I come home to and that I'm really comfortable with because I've known him for 8 years. And my other partner is someone that I go on adventures with, and he challenges me. We have philosophical conversations. Whereas the other partner, he likes to stay at home. He likes to play video
Gotcha.
games, sitting in his room right now. He would be
So you have the
happy if
best
he
of
was just
both.
home
You have
all
the
the
best.
time.
So you have the best of both worlds, technically. So they each meet a certain a part of your needs.
Yeah.
So it's like they complement each other. Okay.
And I think it's great if someone can find one person who's able to satisfy all of those needs, but I don't think that's always possible, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to anyone to have to be everything for another
I think
person.
I think it's actually very difficult, and I think that's why divorce rates are so high. I think back in the day, I think they had communities where everybody could support each other, like helping with the kids, and then like their mental support, and then other areas. And I think now, we've got this, I guess ideological view on marriage, where it's two people being able to meet every need of that partner, and I think it's sometimes not realistic. And I think poly may solve some of this for some people. So I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I think especially as people change, like I'm definitely not the same person I was 10 years ago. So if you're looking to spend 60, 70 years with someone, there's just no way that that entire time you're going to be aligned in every single way with that person. Sometimes people grow closer, sometimes people grow apart. So I'd rather not, uh, get married to any one person and be forced into forced into anything. I'd rather be open to relationships changing and evolving over time.
So since it's like new for all three of you, what if one of them was like, "Hey, I want to be exclusive to only you"? Like, how would
Yeah.
like have you ever thought about that?
Oh yeah, I definitely have. I think if that happens, I, I I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think that would be fair to my other partner. So I think that would be perfectly understandable. If one of my partners felt like this wasn't for them and they wanted someone who could be their everything, I think I would probably have to cut it off with that one person because again, I can't see myself committing to one person for my entire life, no matter what, through thick and thin. Like, who knows if they're going to get injured at some point or they're going to go through some major life event that really changes who they are and really changes their priorities.
Is that something you discuss with like both of them? Like that this might be this might happen in the future to either one of you.
Yeah, I've definitely brought it up. I think we're all again open to things evolving because I think that's really the whole idea is that these relationships are unstable, or that life changes and so your relationships have to change along with that, and if it doesn't work out with me, then I'm sure that both me and my other partners will find other people at some point eventually who are a better fit at that point in time.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
You had mentioned earlier that they're not 100% comfortable with this because they also want to feel like they want to be just with you, each of them, by themselves, just you and him. Um, and you said that they're doing this to make you happy. So my question is, what are you doing for them that'll make them happy being with you?
Yeah, well, I think every relationship is really an exchange of value. So I'm obviously giving back in some way. I'm not just taking it all in. So actually, in some ways, it's quite tough. So it looks like, oh, I'm getting all the attention, or they're spending all this money on me, or like I just want more people, and I'm not giving anything in return. But actually, it's tough when there's two people who are also relying on me for emotional support. So I'm also investing that same time with both of them, and it can be really hard to balance when I have a busy work schedule as well. And still, every week I spend really a full 24 hours with my one partner, and then obviously I live with the other one. So it's not that I'm taking things in; I'm spending time with them. We split every bill. Like if I go out to dinner with my one partner, we alternate who's paying, and I listen to any issues that he has. He listens to any issues that I have. Sometimes we do activities he wants to do. Sometimes we do activities I want to do. So I feel like it's, I mean, it's never going to be exactly 50-50, but it's a give and take in both
Do you
directions.
guys have a hierarchy at all, like in the relationship? Because there's usually hierarchies, like primary, secondary partners, anchor. I mean, the one you're living with is your anchor partner for sure, because you're tied to him financially, you live with him, etc. But like,
Yeah.
do you guys have a little hierarchy? Are you queen, Miss Queen, and they're your male bees, or is it just whatever happens happens? There's no rules. Is there a dominance hierarchy? It's just curious for me. And also, I want to know if you talk to any communities about this. Like, are you part of a community to learn more and to make your relationship better? Because again, I mean, it seems like you guys are new to this, and
Mhm.
the whole world is kind of new to this.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't refer to myself like that. But I do recognize that at least at this point in time, I do have more of the power in the relationship. And that could change if they each have their own partners. And I recognize that could be very hard for me.
Are you a part of
Right.
any of the poly communities or
To
get
learn
any
more
advice?
to help
Yeah,
your
to learn more.
relationship.
Because there's so many terms. I learned
Yeah.
so many terms, and it's just confusing. Even their language, the way they talk to each other on the Reddit conversations, it's like I can't keep up because it's all abbreviations of like different meanings.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm not a huge fan of any of these labels. I guess my current the partner that I live with would be called like my nesting partner because like I come home to that person. And yeah, I know there are polyamorous relationships where there's a primary partner and a secondary partner. I don't really like that idea in general because again, I'm more into it being fluid and evolving as needs change. I don't actually know anyone else who's polyamorous, but I do think the friend group that I'm in is very supportive. Um, and they may not be practicing polyamory, but we have a lot of people in the friend group who are still friends with their exes. And we all hang out, like they hang out with their
That's a
current
red flag.
girlfriend. They have
That's
their
a red
ex.
flag for us. Most of us guys see that as a
Yeah,
red flag.
I understand that. Yeah.
So, question: what do your parents know, and what do they think if they do know?
Yeah. So my mom definitely knows. I don't talk to my dad as much, so I'm not sure if she's told him. My mom is honestly completely on board because she knows all the details of the situation. Um, my sister is not super happy about it because she thinks it's weird and unconventional, and she doesn't want to be associated with someone who's in that community. And I would say the same thing with my friends. Not all of them. I can't be as open with all of them about it because there's a risk of judgment. Like in some ways, I feel the same as someone who's gay or someone who's trans. I wouldn't put this under the same umbrella, but I think the same stigma exists out there to where I really have to be careful who I'm telling what to. Like I can't walk into work and be like, yeah, I was with my one boyfriend and then I was with my other one the next day without risk of being judged for that.
Well,
So
I think it's more
I,
just being judged, right? Because it's like it's new to you too, so you don't want anyone's judgment to mislead your decisions in the near future, of whether you want to continue or not.
Yeah, I think I have I'm pretty confident in my own decision, so I wouldn't necessarily let anyone else's opinion sway me. It's more so I wouldn't want it to affect my workplace or any relationships with family members. I guess if it was a friend who judged me, I might choose to not continue that relationship if I felt like they didn't trust the decisions that I'm making.
So would you consider like polyamory something where, like, let's think about the five love languages, right? We have words of affirmation, we have physical touch, quality time. We also have gift giving and acts of service. So would you consider it as like every person has like that thing that they fulfill that love language? Like if you have five different partners in it, one person is not fulfilling one part, like the physical touch, and you go to somebody who will fulfill that physical touch. You go to somebody who's not filling in for the words of affirmation. Would you go to that person? And is that something where polyamory comes into play as well?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily believe there's these five love languages and that's the end all be all, but I see your point. I mean, I think you could have multiple partners who are fulfilling your need for touch or for sex or for uh, I don't know, quality time together. I don't think it has to be one partner does this and the other partner does this and the other one does that. But there might be like I might spend more time doing this one thing with this person and I happen to not do that thing with this other person. I feel like it's the same as like we have multiple friends for multiple different activities. Like you wouldn't have the same kinds of conversations necessarily with this friend as you would with that one, or maybe with this one you go rock climbing and the other one you go to concerts with. It's kind of the same idea. So I really I don't see why it has to be different just because there's sex or romance involved. It still should work the same way as any other friendship.
Oh man, this is so interesting. I almost keep losing track of it because I'm so keen on listening. Question. So, somebody who is interested in getting into the poly relationship world, I guess, how do you go about starting this? Do you need to, I guess, do you need to know, did you even know that your partners would be okay with it when you first, came up with the idea or thought about it? You know what I mean? Or is it just shooting it, something right into the deep dark sea and hoping you catch something?
Yeah, I actually knew they would not be open to it. Like we had
Okay.
specifically discussed, like, oh no, if I'm dating someone, I'm dating one person. This isn't an option. Um, it was more so like the circumstances led to this, not that I at any point decided this is what I'm doing and then I'm going to seek out these particular partners to do it with me. It was more so that this sort of relationship fit the people that happened to be in my life, not that I was looking for people to fit the relationship
Yeah.
that I wanted.
That's good. That's very bold of you. You should do what's best for you. Like you should do what's best for you, and if they're they're adult enough to make their decision, and if they're accepting of it, they should be cool with it too. So yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I think everyone's responsible for their own life and their own happiness. So if they weren't happy with the situation, I don't think they should say, oh, I'm using them in any way, because they're free to leave at any point in time. They didn't sign a contract like I have to stay in the situation. They could either leave or they could tell me we need to rework what the boundaries are here.
Would somebody be considered polyamorous if they're just devoted only and strictly to you? And if, like, let's say if, I don't know, that you're there, like, still being, in a relation with that person and somebody else, but that one person is only being complete devoted to you, but still says, well, I'm polyamorous. Would you say that person is still polyamorous, even though he's only devoted to you alone?
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the situation I'm in right now. So technically it would be called like a V relationship where only one person
Oh
has
yeah,
two
yep.
partners and the other two
Wow.
have just
Okay.
that one. Personally, I think everyone is polyamorous because it literally means
Yeah,
multiple
they're
loves.
accepting. Yeah,
Um,
they're accepting that your partner loves somebody else. So as well. So I mean,
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely poly.
Yeah, and again, the situation could change. So just because that happens to be like, there could be someone who's open to polyamory, but they could be in a monogamous relationship right now. But just the fact that they're open to it in the future makes them polyamorous.
And my other question is going to be: are you in this type of relationship? Or I mean, are you constantly looking to meet new people or connect with new people, or if it just happens, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think you could handle a third? That's another question.
Yeah, and there's a term for that too. So it's called polysaturated. If you don't think you
Okay.
can have another person, again, I'm not a huge fan of these terms. Right now, I am. I don't think I could handle another person because again, it is exhausting when you're kind of. I try to remember which person I told what, and I honestly forget. And there's like long text chains between multiple people, and I have a lot of other friends as well who I wouldn't call it a relationship, but I think I happen to have a lot of close male friends that are closer friends than most people would have. Um, Even though I'm not interested in anything more with those people, um, but it takes up a lot of energy.
have you always had more male friends than female friends, or more female friends, or you feel
I
more
would say
connected to men?
I've had more male friends because I find women difficult and fickle, and it's just easier to maintain relationships with men. But
Definitely,
yeah,
you're definitely the queen bee. Definitely the queen bee.
I'm not trying to be.
No, hey, that's own it. That's you. Ein, you've been
Well,
quiet. Let's go.
yeah, Bert. I wanted to ask a quick question. You mentioned earlier that you are fully aware that there is a power dynamic
Yeah.
that you have in the relationship, and you said that might change eventually. I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that, of course, your relationship are consensual, but because there's such a huge gap in power dynamics, do you think that perhaps because you have you're at such a high level than the partners that you have right now, that you could potentially be actually, in a way, hindering their own love life by keeping them in this relationship, by kind of ensnaring them into this situation, especially since you mentioned that both of them, you said, right, actually would prefer to be in a monogamous relationship, but they both came back to you and agreed to this configuration, not because they want to be in it, but because they probably have feelings for you, emotions for you, and love for you. So do you think in a way, sort of way, that it is actually may not be consensual?
So I guess, like I said before, I think everyone is responsible for their own decisions. And I think if they really wanted to leave, they could. Like, it's not like I'm like keeping them in chains or anything. Like, they're free to leave tomorrow if they really wanted to. But I do see what you're saying, and I do feel a little bit guilty just because it's definitely easier as a woman to find really any man I want whenever I want. And I realize it's already harder for men on a dating app, and it would be especially hard if they were to openly say, I'm looking for someone to practice ethical non-monogamy with. Like, that's automatically kind of a red flag. So to a lot of people who are not familiar with it. So yeah, I mean, I do feel a little bit uncomfortable there. And I also feel
honestly, I don't think you should. They're grown men. And let me tell you something. The reason why most men are going to find this uncomfortable is because men are jealous. Men are like to be in power. Most of the time, masculinity. You're always in charge. You're always whatever. So if a woman's in charge, it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Like, the fact that you got technically you're in a matriarchy. You know what I mean? Type of deal. So I could see how many men would kind of cringe at it. And honestly, I think women probably have an easier time finding multiple partners. I think, I mean, I have no problem in the dating world, but I mean, I think it would be tough for a guy to find 2-3 women who are going to be open with ethically non-monogamous. And some of the I've seen people on the dating apps. I don't know, some of them I don't think I'd even look at. Some of them were some strange people. But besides that point, I think it's easier for a woman to be in a poly relationship because I think there are more guys out there who are lonely and are willing to compromise to be with a quality woman, and even if it means sharing her, because I mean, I think everybody needs love.
I really disagree with that saying that it's easier for women. Like, I feel like it's easier for women to find sex, but I don't think it's easy for women to be in a relationship. And those are two different things. I mean, a woman can go into a bar, you can bring a guy home the same night. Another question I have is, like, how did you even come up with this? Because you said that this was something that you would be probably appalled yourself if you heard of somebody, a few years ago who would be in this situation. Like, how did you eventually come up and say, hey, I'm going to give this a shot? Like, how did that thought process go through your mind?
Yeah. So again, we started out more as just close friends with the newer partner when I got back together with the older partner. But at a certain point, I was feeling like I want to at least cuddle with this person. But then, like, that's kind of a boundary. Like, what constitutes okay cuddling versus crossing a line cuddling. And at a certain point, I was feeling uncomfortable with that. And previously, I had felt bad because I had also cheated on my original partner at one point, and I didn't want to do that again because I don't want to be a bad person. So at a certain point, I felt like I had to bring this up with my original partner. Like, are you okay with this? And he was like, yeah, sort of, as long as you don't do this. And then it kind of just kept getting pushed a little bit, and then it didn't have a label for a while. But
so let me ask you. Okay, so your other partner asked you to create a boundary with your other partner.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I mean, I think
Okay.
every relationship has boundaries, whether it's polyamorous or not. Um,
Yep.
there's always sacrifices
But
that
that,
need to be made.
but that boundary, so your other partner can't cross that boundary even though he wants to.
Right now, yeah, and I'm hoping that that will eventually evolve, but I obviously can't guarantee that. So if I want to stay in this situation, I have to respect that if I'm not going to go about cheating again. So it's a constant balance between respecting everyone's needs. So I think it takes a lot more work to maintain more than two people.
Yeah.
It can be very rewarding, but
Well, I mean, you can do what you want. You said you don't share. You don't share their side stories, to each other. What happens in that relationship stays in that relationship. Isn't that what you said earlier?
But so my other thing is, if you or one of them chose to have another partner, are you all supposed to talk about it first, or how does it work?
yeah. So
Or
I would
like
be
just if they're even dating, like just even on a date, just to go out there, like nothing serious. You know what I mean? Like just maybe one date, two dates.
Yeah, I would definitely want to know about it if neither of them are on dating apps right now, as far as I know, and I trust them. I would want to know about it before they went back on, and I want to know how their relationship with this other person is evolving. And I think there's always a possibility that they meet someone new and the connection is better with that new person in some way. Like it's just a better fit between people, which is not to say that person is better than me, just that that connection is better suited for the two people involved. Um, so I guess I would just want to be aware of what's going on so that I can process the changes that might be happening, um, in case it leads to a change in our dynamic eventually.
Speaking of the change in dynamic, that's actually something I was curious about. So, just hearing your story, it seems like one of the main reasons why you ended up cheating was because your relationship was lacking in that one person was fulfilling the need that your partner wasn't fulfilling. So, hypothetical question out of curiosity: if one of your partners at some point ends up meeting those expectations, all those expectations, not necessarily that you're going to spend the rest of your life with them or anything like that, but if one partner does fulfill everything, would you be open to being in a monogamous relationship with that person, especially because they say that they want a monogamous relationship? If the dynamic and configuration of the relationship changes in that nature, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I think that would definitely be easier if there was one person that met my every need. But again, I wouldn't want to do what most people do, which is like, oh, I'm no longer in a romantic or sexual relationship with this other person, so I'm just going to completely cut them off and I hate them now and I'm never talking to them again. I just wouldn't want to close that door with my other partner, even if I end up monogamous with someone. I would still want to be at least friends with that person, even if the exact nature of the relationship shifts. Like instead of meeting every week,
You
we
think
meet
you
once a
think you
month.
could be you think you could be friends with somebody you're romantically involved with? I mean, that's difficult.
I am friends with people that I've been romantically involved with in the past.
Oh, you
Um,
have. Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
God
I feel
damn,
like
that's another
I
topic.
mean, I mean, in the back of your mind, you got to think that this person is with you as a friend because they still have may have this hope that you may get back with them. No, you don't think
I mean,
that's a possibility,
I
or
definitely think they still want to have sex with me, but that's just one aspect of a
Mhm.
relationship. I think that's a relatively small aspect of a
Gotcha.
successful relationship. And just because you would have sex with someone if given the option doesn't mean that you have to have sex with every person
Yeah.
ever that you wanted to. There are all kinds of situations where you're attracted to people, but you're just going to leave it at, like if you are attracted.
Hey guys, which one of you guys would date a girl who's friends with her ex? Raise your hand. Yeah.
Can't be
Actually,
friends with X.
that's another topic. That's a 2-hour topic right there. But
Yeah.
That's
so
true. That's true.
On the next
follow up,
show.
since you talked about the sexual aspect of things, that was actually what came up the last podcast that we had with our male guest was how does the sexual part work? Because obviously you're going to be having sex with one person, and so if a person opens a relationship to another, like a fourth person, because right now you're three, right? Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you necessarily, out of health purposes have to tell the other people in the relationship, like, hey, I'm going to be sexually active with this other person, but I'm going to be wearing. So you do have to kind of fill them in with that, at least that detail.
Yeah, I would say just that fact that we would be having sex, but I definitely don't want to be sharing those intimate details with. Yeah, like obviously that's going to lead to discomfort and jealousy.
Yeah.
How about fluid bonding with like multiple partners? Do you think that's healthy?
I don't know what that means.
I mean, fluid bonding is when it's like a way of saying like you don't use protection with multiple partners because you want to bond with all of them, the same. So yeah, that's a poly term. That's a poly term I learned too. So that's like a question. Like, would you be like if you were having sex with more like multiple partners, like or fluid bonding? Is that something that's an acceptable, normal? Because
wait, hold on. Sirken, are you sure you're not a closet poly?
Yeah,
no,
no. You know more than her.
Dude, I read up.
You know more than her, brother.
Dude, I knew. When I like something, I'm interested in a topic. I like dive deep. Like,
I mean, we spoke about transgender too, and you dove deep into that. You liked it.
What? Get the hell out of here!
All right, go ahead, Bert.
It's not about me.
I mean, I think
It's not about me.
I don't know how I feel about that the term, but
Fluid bonding.
well, but I think if I trusted everyone involved, I wouldn't have a problem not using protection. I would really have to get to know the people pretty well.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do that with someone I met 2 weeks ago. I wouldn't.
You'd have to really trust them, basically.
So if you want to go look for like a third person, how do you go about that? Do you let them know first, or do you just go out looking and then when you meet someone, you introduce them to the two?
Wait, well, hold on. Have the partners met? That's the other thing. Yeah. First, let's ask that. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So my one partner spends the night here every other week, and so they obviously interact with each other, and they're civil.
Oh, so all three of you in one house?
Yeah, well, not in the same bed.
Not room,
you first introduce them. Did you like go to dinner? Like, hey guys, I got reservation for 3. You guys eat dinner like dinner.
Well, we don't hang out. We don't hang out the 3 of us, but we are part of the same friend group. Like we have a big group chat that they're both in. We have big house parties that they're both there for.
This sounds healthier than I thought.
Oh man! All right, I gotta ask. You said house parties.
Mondo's interested. I can tell. Mondo's interested. I can see his eyes.
Oh my god! I have to ask.
Interesting. Yeah.
How is that with like? How is there 2 other guys in the same party? Like, how do you cater to 2 other guys in the same party?
Oh, that's true.
I'm just curious.
It took some adjustment. The first time the first time they both hung out in the same group, it was a bunch of us. We all went out clubbing. And it was definitely extremely uncomfortable.
Did they Oreo you?
I'm sorry?
Did they Oreo you or sandwich you? You say you went to a club, like the Oreo, you got the
No, the better question is can you be yourself with both of them at the same time in the same area, in the same vicinity? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I think anytime you're hanging out with 2 people that don't usually hang out together, you can't be exactly like anyone you hang out with. Okay. You're a slightly different person. Like even if it's 2 friends you're talking about from 2 different friend groups, the version of you with this friend is different from the one with this friend. So I do think I behave a little bit differently when they're both there. I try and restrain myself with regards to both of them because I don't want to give preference to one over the other. We had a little bit of an issue with that the first time all of us hung out together as a group because I was, I guess, unintentionally giving preference to one over the other. I
was about to ask that next.
Yeah. So, again, it took some adjustment. We hide it a little bit in a group because some people in our friend group are not super aware of it, or they kind of are, but they don't really want to know about it, or they don't want to see it. Or I can see how it would be uncomfortable to people there if I'm like between 2 guys and they're both like trying to.
I would be amused.
Are you in a like? Do you like? Are you showing affection at all? Like both of them at the same time during the parties? Like you give them pecks in the lips, both of them. Like that.
Between the kisses.
I try to refrain. entirely,
wanna put the
or at
put
least
your finger in the other one's
I'll
mouth?
say you kiss one guy in one, you kiss one guy in another room, another guy in another, and someone's like, "Oh my god, did you see that? She just kissed."
only with our closest friends am I
Gotcha.
somewhat more open about that.
So you don't show any affection in public if you're in a public setting that some people may not know that you guys are in a polyamorous relationship? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just generally more affectionate than most people, just with my friends in general. Yeah, but I wouldn't do anything that would outright give it away that there's something funny going on here that's totally
Right.
outside of the norm.
I actually wanted to circle back real quick. I meant to ask it earlier. I didn't get a chance to. Back to the sexual aspect of it. So you mentioned that sex isn't the only thing in a relationship, which obviously I completely agree with. But just to give you a little bit of pushback here, sex is a really huge component, though. It's what differentiates a romantic relationship between, just a friendship. It's what differentiates love between, romantic partner versus love of like a child or a family. And so, if that's lacking in one side, like, can you really truly call it I guess a romantic relationship? What differentiates what you have? Let's say you have a partner, right? And you don't have a sexual connection with them. What makes them just a friend? Why not just say, this is my friend? As opposed to like, well, I'm in a polyamorous relationship. Like, why label it as that?
Yeah.
Rather than just like, they're friends.
Well, I think there's a sexual component, but there's also a romantic component. I'm not an expert on any of this, but like I know there are asexual people out there. There are aromantic people out there. There are people who are both asexual and aromantic. And I definitely think you can have a romantic relationship without having sex, because that's a completely different.
Yep.
Completely
Yeah,
different.
you have some people who have regular sex. You have some people who don't have sex, and then you have Mondo.
And aggressive sex. There you go.
I definitely agree that you can have a romantic relationship with someone without the sexual aspect of it. But I'm just saying it's such a huge part of being in a romantic relationship. But I think to take away that component, kind of it cheapens, I guess, what a romantic relationship actually is. You know what I'm saying?
I think you can still have sexual feelings towards someone without having to express it in any particular way. And there are many different definitions as to what sex is. Like, it doesn't have to be P&B. There are a lot of different things you can do. Sometimes it just doesn't work out with the people who are in that situation in that particular way. But it doesn't mean that the feelings aren't there and that you still can't satisfy some of those needs in other ways.
Do you consider yourself an extrovert?
Absolutely not. Total introvert.
Okay.
Do I seem like an extrovert?
I mean, you came out here. You're not shy, so yeah. and you're the queen bee. So I mean, I
Queen bee. Damn, she holds the whip in that ladies.
No, I'm telling you, I come up with the best. I come up with the best nicknames. I was just gonna say.
I have a quick question. I completely agree with what Shirkan said and what you had said, that the people that are involved in any polyamorous relationship, at the end of the day, we're all grown adults. Let's say I grant you that, olive branch, that it is consensual and they're grown adults, they make their own decisions. Do you think that perhaps in some way, you said it yourself, you feel a little bit of guilt? Do you think you have, in a way, a kind of a moral, ethical obligation to not involve them in this situation?
I think a lot of it, though, is just the society we're in, where we're told that we're doing something wrong if we're not giving all of ourselves to this one person. And I think if we weren't receiving this messaging from literally everything we watch, and all of the relationships around us, I probably wouldn't feel so bad. Because again,
Okay.
these are men who are 30 and older. I feel like they're old enough to make their own.
Well, you know what? I'm going to ask the guys some questions. After having this discussion, this is the second podcast. How do you feel about poly relationships after the second podcast? Like, has anything changed in your mind? I'm not saying you're open to it, but like, what do you think? Like, does it make sense to you? So,
I mean,
yeah.
are you trying to look for?
Armando's going to start it out. He's been moving his seat. Armando, you moved your face closer to the camera.
Yeah.
I did.
You want to kiss me? Mondo, you want to kiss me?
No. I think no, hold on. I think I've done a lot of fluid bonding with people. That's what I think.
He looked that up. He's like,
I've done a lot, man.
Very self-explanatory.
That's his favorite word now. I don't.
Bonding.
I like. No, it's not. I don't like to use a condom. I like the fluid bond.
I like that's the new one right there, man.
So, come on, let's go. Start it out,
Let's go.
Mondo.
Start
What do
out.
you think? What's your
I
views?
think for me, I think it's pretty. I respect other people's lifestyles, whatever they decide to do, and I think it's pretty courageous what you're doing and pretty brave. Kudos to you for being the queen bee, as Sirkin referred to you as. But for me, I personally think I'm very selfish. I want mine for me, and that's it, just for me. But I think that
You could have multiple women.
my question, I think when you're, for me, do you know what a fuckboy is? Because these guys apparently don't know. I want you to know.
That's under your name.
You know what a
fuckboy
is?
Definition.
What is your definition of a fuckboy?
Like the same as a side chick, but the other way around. I don't know.
In a way, yeah, in a way.
Right context.
Yeah, right. So I think we've all come to the agreement that a fuckboy is just someone who just does things out of very malicious antics, very deceptive, that they know what they're doing is completely wrong. But I think that when you're honest, and I think I mentioned this earlier, like when you're honest from the beginning about what you want, even whether you want to be in a casual relationship or you have the intention to actually be in a serious relationship, or in your case, a polyamorous relationship, it's always important to let the person know from the beginning what is it that you really, really want, what your true intention and genuine intention is. So I think that that's something for me right now, because I'm a single guy and I'm openly dating multiple girls right now, like maybe 2 or 3. And it's not because I'm in a relationship with them, but we're casually dating, like they're aware that, yes, I am dating other girls because I'm not ready to commit right now.
But are you fluid bonding with all of them?
No comment.
Damn it.
No
We're going to have to
right
cut
now.
this out. We're going to have to cut this out.
Yeah.
There's no cutting this. That was the best part.
Yeah, that was the best part. But I think that it is important to also let the person know from the beginning what your true intention is. And I think hopefully that, that even though hopefully they respect you enough to know that this is what you guys are at right now. And hopefully that's what they want right now. And again, much respect to you for being here tonight. Thank you very much.
But hold on, you didn't answer my question.
What was your question?
Has your mind changed about the way you look at poly relationships?
No, I didn't. I did answer that earlier. I think I respect the lifestyle, but it's not for me.
Okay.
Well,
Let's go, Race.
Well, sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right.
Oh no, Bert, wait, hold on, Bert.
Yeah, I had a question. But what makes you want to eventually settle down with one of these women? Like, couldn't you see yourself for the rest of your life just casually dating multiple people?
You know what? Like right
He's living that life right now. What do you mean? He's a fuckboy.
Thing with me is just the fact that I have to get to know them really, really more to see if they really have that it factor. The it factor is something that you just know that when it clicks. Can't really describe it. It's just something that when it clicks, that's when you're going to pursue, and that's when you're going to want to settle down with for a very, very long time.
That's from the horror movie, Stephen King horror movie. So
no, man.
Careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for.
Wait, hold on though. A quick question for you. So, why couldn't you just be in a polyamorous relationship while you wait for that person with the it factor? So that way you could fluid bond without feeling guilty, without the fuckboy label.
Ethically non-monogamous.
I don't feel guilty right now either, but for me, that I think that's a lifestyle that takes a lot of commitment. Like Bert said earlier, it's a lot of time.
That it is a relationship. Yep,
it is a relationship, and that's something, right? I think when you're still casually dating, you're not really that fully committed to that person. You just hang out with them a few times and.
Hey, fuckboy, there's another term you're going to learn. It's called polysolo. You can be polysolo. No emotional commitment.
Same thing as a fuckboy. What do you mean?
You can just be a grifter.
Drifter, I like that term. See, but the thing about it too, I don't consider myself a fuckboy because I go out there with true intention. Like, yes, I am casually dating. No.
That's the nice word.
Polysolo grifter makes more sense in a way because at the waistline you're still kind of like wondering on figuring things out. But fuckboy for me, I don't consider myself a fuckboy. That to me is it's a fucked up human being. You're going out there, you know what you're doing wrong. You're fucking around with other people. You're fucking around with their brains. and that's it. But if you tell them straight up, like this is what I want right now, I'm not ready to be committed. I'm still dating other people, and that's one of the first conversations that I would have. So fuckboy, I'm not a fuckboy. Maybe when I was in my 20s, probably. My teens, yeah.
No,
But
probably
now,
you were.
nah, shut the fuck up. All right. You just don't do it good as me.
So you're actually kind of polyamorous if you think about it.
In a way.
Yeah, he's
Ray,
sharing
how
him.
about you,
He's
Race?
sharing himself with 3 other people. Yeah, Raise, you go. You've been quiet.
You're racist.
I mean, it doesn't change my mind on it, to be honest. Like, people can live their life how they want to. They can love as many people as they want. But for me personally, I don't think I could ever do that. I'm just like Mondo, I think I'm pretty selfish, and I would only want one person to love me, and I only want to love one person for the rest of my life, But I could never see myself like just watching my just watching one person that I love and dating someone else at the same time, sharing them. Like I could never do that. I want to come home, see that person every single time, not have to worry about, oh, am I gonna have her this day, that day? Is she gonna come home tonight or tomorrow?
Well, those schedules are, you got. That's why you have a calendar, man.
No, that's not.
Dude, you go to work like that. Don't you have a calendar for work?
Yeah, well, I'm not in love with work, am I?
But
That's what we heard.
I think there's a risk though if you're giving your all to one person, then
you see, that's why I do what I do.
you're cutting yourself off from everyone else. So then, what if you made that commitment and you got married to that person, and then it didn't work out for the rest of your life?
I mean, yeah,
The way you
a
planned it.
perfect example. I'm actually divorced. I was with her for 15 years. It
Me
didn't
too.
work out. But at the same
Me
time,
too.
every relationship is a risk of its own.
Mondo too.
Whether you're mono or poly, it's a risk regardless.
Engaged twice.
Even whether you're married or not, it's all a risk. So to me, it's what risk are you willing to take?
I think poly would actually be more risk because you're committed to more people, and so
Yeah, but if you lose one, you still have another.
Yeah,
that's true.
I was gonna say.
Armando, just admit you're polyamorous. Damn it, just jump on the
Bert,
bandwagon already.
I have to ask you though, like when you
Yeah.
introduce it to both people about poly, what if one person said no to it? Would you have still continued and pursued poly?
I think initially I would have cut it off with the newer partner before we ever entered into the relationship, because I, at that point in time, would have owed more to the partner that I had an established relationship with. But because they were both open to it, we moved forward.
Do you think that poly relationships will ever become mainstream?
I definitely think we're moving in that direction. So I think, again, it's not just whether or not you happen to be dating multiple people. It's more of a mindset shift. So I just think of relationships as more constantly changing, as opposed to you are either in one or you're no longer in one. It's just sometimes you have a stronger bond with this person and then you have a stronger bond with this other person. But I think, again, just like LGBT relationships are more mainstream now, I think we're moving in the same direction with this, where just new ideas are becoming possible. Because I think the idea that was out there for a long time of like one man and one woman make a marriage, and that's the only way that you can raise children, that's just kind of outdated now.
That was going to be my next question. Do you want kids, and is that a possibility in a poly relationship?
Yeah, I definitely want kids. Right now, it would be with the partner that I live with that I would see that happening. And I have talked about this with my other partner as well. And he is on board with it. I would want both of them around and helping to raise the kids. And I totally understand that not all men are going to be okay with raising some other man's kids. But I would want to build a community around my children. And I know there's some concern about people not thinking that's okay for your kids to see you being romantic with some other person, that's bad for the child's development. But I think we used to have those same conceptions about like you can't raise a kid with two moms or two dads. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as the kid is surrounded by people who care about them. And the
Hold on.
parents-
Hold on. Is there statistics that say two parents, two men and two women raising a kid, they end up healthy? I don't even know if there are statistics.
I think I remember looking this up before. I think actually homosexual gay males, actually their children turn out better than I think regular heterosexual couples, because typically two guys make more money. And so right away, they're right off the bat, they're already at a higher income bracket, which just the more money you have, the more opportunity, the better education you're going to have. So I think I remember looking at the statistic before because I was, defending homosexual same-sex marriage debate, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Financially, I would assume you guys would be more. I guess financially, I guess you do you still think that we have a kid, everything would have to still be separate, or how would that work? Like finances. I mean, I know it's hypothetical and it's long shot and it's going to depend on the thing, but
Yeah.
what's a realistic way of the healthiest way? Separate finances, or what's the deal with
Yeah.
because that is important.
I mean, I don't have kids, but we do
Yeah.
with my one partner have a big financial commitment together because we recently bought a house together, so we're both paying the mortgage for that. So we're already pretty tied together financially with that one person. I think probably before I had kids, I would get married just for the financial stability part of it. I don't believe in it, the other aspects of marriage. I just see it as like a legal contract.
Right. The legal benefits of being married,
financial security for me.
Bert, I wanted to ask you real quick to again, I keep circling back because I want to ask you so many, questions pop up and then I can't ask it because everybody wants to ask you questions. So, in regards to going back to polyamory becoming mainstream, right? So one of the big pushbacks about polygamy, for example, which is, a different thing. So the argument is a concept known as hypergamy. So basically the theory or hypothesis, I guess you could call it, is that the reason why polygamy would not work in society is because before, typically women would search out the males who could provide them the resources because women didn't work. And the man was the one that went out there and hunted and got the food and things like that and provided for the shelter. But now that, so that's why polygamy didn't work, because all the women would basically go to the most powerful man who can get them the most resources. And what ended up happening was that you have a group of men in society who can't get into relationships because they don't have the resources, and they become an underclass. And that's what creates revolution, because you have a bunch of men who can't own property, don't have a prospect of having any kids or falling in love and having, a marriage. And so now, because women have been in the workforce and, we live in a society that's hopefully, heading towards egalitarianism, do you think that it could actually potentially harm society? Because what could potentially end up happening is kind of your situation right now, where you have a group of men, because you are, at the top of the hierarchy, you're the queen bee. And now you have a group of men that's just going to you, but then you're going to create an underclass of women who are not as higher in the totem pole as you are, who are going to be basically without any men or prospects of a relationship.
Yeah. Well, I think we have to kind of redefine. You're right. We have to redefine everything we know, because it used to be that as a woman, you had to get married in order to survive. And now we're pretty equal, and it's always an exchange of value. So I guess women need to be providing sex for the most part, and then men need to be providing money.
Right, that's no longer necessary in our society because women are capable of work. You can provide for yourself.
Yeah, so I guess we have to move away from that way of thinking, as it's just like kind of black and white. Like, this is what men are looking for, this is what women are looking for. I think we have to move into what strengths does each individual person have that complement another individual person's strengths. I just think there's just more factors in the mix now, as opposed to just having to survive on the farm and needing your husband or wife in order to raise your 10 kids that you have.
Well, that was my question, is that what could end up happening is that the opposite, where you have one woman, because she has a huge power dynamic, all the men will come to her to be shared, as opposed, and you'll have an underclass of women that can't get men, because you have, one woman will have 10 men in her harem, I guess you could say.
10. Good luck with that one. I did not see that one ever happening.
I don't know.
The balance would tip. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that could be a potential danger?
I think it depends on the individual person's personality. Like, there's going to be men that have a lot of women. There's going to be women that have a lot of men. And then there's going to be situations where it's equal, just depending on what particular skills that person has and what strengths and weaknesses they have.
Yeah. The only reason I asked that too is because, based on my anecdotal experience, just having been in online dating for approximately 6 months, I have noticed that typically in polyamorous relationships. I don't know how entrenched you are in the community as of now, but I feel like the women are really the one that are in control for the most part, majority of those relationships. That it's usually the men that have to that are encircling her rather than the other way around. What Sirkan I think mentioned earlier, that it's extremely rare to be in a polyamorous relationship where you have one guy and 3 or 4 women that cater to him. It's usually the other way around. So
unless he's hyper masculine, then it's different.
Unless
typically.
He's like hyper, yeah.
Because I've heard that in Reddit too.
Yeah.
I've heard it in Reddit where a couple of the girls were like, "Oh, my man has like 3-4 women," and yeah, they were saying he was polysaturated, where he literally would come home dead, and they would get angry, and he's just like drained, but she couldn't say anything because every night he would have a different woman. Like literally, he had a girl for every night. It was insane. Some of the article stuff I read.
Well, those kind of men that can achieve that. The only like it's like 0.001% who are that have the social status or the financial status that can achieve that, which is like 99.9% aren't in that category. So the likelihood is like that, unless you're like Leonardo DiCaprio or So I guess that's the danger that's why I asked about the dangers of it becoming mainstream, if it could actually be not good for society overall.
Well, I do think women have a lot more power in general in society. Like if people get divorced, I think women usually end up better off. They get the better deal.
I don't know. I'm not going to agree with you on that one. Women, I disagree. Women do not. I think both
in
parties,
certain aspects.
Both sides.
Long term, I don't think they do, but in the short term, I think they do.
Yeah.
Like financially, they do in the short term.
So
in the long term, I don't agree.
Post divorce, women typically it's much harder for women to, for example, remarry.
Single moms,
especially single moms. It's much more difficult. And actually, if you look at divorce rates, only 10% of women nowadays, and it's getting less and less, get alimony. So it's easier for a woman post marriage to find a guy to have sex. But to actually be in a loving relationship and to remarry is much more difficult for a divorced woman than it is for a divorced man. Yeah.
But I do think it is mostly women that initiate divorces, and they get the treatment they get is.
Here we go. Here he comes. Ein. Wait for Ein.
Let her finish.
I think generally we believe the woman more so over the man, even if it was an equal situation. We're going to believe the woman's version. And then a lot of times I think there are women out there who marry a man just for his money, and then they end up with half of it after the divorce, or they end up better off than they were when. I mean, I understand it could be hard for them to find their next husband, but they end up better off financially than they were when they entered the relationship.
Oh no! All the divorced men are going.
Yeah. Yes, it is true that statistically speaking, 80% of women are the ones who initiate the divorce. But the counter argument to that is that just because someone initiates the divorce does not mean that they're the ones who broke the marriage. And so we know statistically speaking that the number one cause of divorce is infidelity, and men commit infidelity at 18% and women at 12% in marriages. And so if you can lay the blame game, I think for the most part, I think. A lot of times people just fall out of love. That's probably the majority reason why marriages fall apart. But, again, just because the woman is the one filing for divorce does not necessarily mean you can't automatically correlate that and assume that she's the one that broke the marriage. Because Sirkan, and Ray's, both of us were in marriages. And Ray's, were you the one who filed for divorce? Or did she?
Well,
so all three of us were the ones
considered cheating.
I want a divorce.
Bert, that's what I'm saying. Us three were the ones who filed for divorce in our marriages because our ex-wives cheated on us, but we weren't the ones that broke the marriage. They broke the marriage when they cheated. So the statistic 80% is to me is meaningless. It doesn't say. It doesn't really say anything.
Men out there.
No, I'm not saying
Statistically, 2 of you are lying. The brothers are probably lying. Statistically speaking, there's no way all 3 of us got cheated.
We're the ones who cheated. Yeah, right.
Nah. The problem is we all have the evidence.
Remember, we got cheated on.
I guess that's why we're friends.
Sirkan's bi-curious. That's what happened.
Straight as fuck.
And Bert, we always make the joke that everybody who's divorced, it's like being in jail. Everyone's innocent, right? Mm-hmm. We're all the good guys in our relationships. We did nothing wrong. We're innocent.
I didn't say I was the good guy, but I got cheated on.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah. No, and I definitely think that's a fair assessment of what you said. I think monogamy in general is is I like what you said earlier, and I completely agree with it. A lot of it is like social pressure to be in that situation. I said this in the previous podcast too. I think a lot of people probably, maybe, I don't know what percentage I'm pulling out of my butt, maybe like 10, 15% of the population, specifically the male population, are probably better off in a polyamorous relationship than they are in a monogamous relationship. Yeah.
Or being
Yeah.
alone.
No, well, or being alone. Yeah, because the term fuckboy, for example, a lot of guys do that, and women now too, where people are just they technically are in a polyamorous situation. They're dating multiple people, sleeping with multiple people. It's just that they're deceptive about it. They don't tell the truth. So it's like, why not just be truthful and be in a polyamorous relationship? But as you said, though, it is a relationship, and there's, I think Armando, you were the one who said it, or was it you, Bert? I don't remember, but yeah, our previous male guest also said that. He mentioned that. He's like, it's a relationship, and if you don't want to be in a relationship, you just want to casually date, then it's not as easy.
I was wondering what
Oh.
what you might do if you think you found your life partner and everything's perfect and wonderful, except there was one issue, like they were really bad in bed or something like that. It's just a hypothetical situation.
Ooh.
Like what would you do? Would you still marry that person?
I wouldn't.
I would
If they
leave
were
them.
bad
I would have left them like the first time.
But what if you had this
No, but,
ridiculously
I mean,
strong
like-
emotional connection otherwise?
No, well, honestly, I've dated girls where the sex wasn't good, and I don't know. I think if you love someone, honestly, if you really love someone enough, you work on it. Either going to get therapy because there's sex therapy you can get, or you can work on it more, or there's many options. I think there's many options. My friend is actually a sex therapist, and she deals with people who have psychological problems with it, or like somebody came out of an injury or a disease that like prohibited them from being, getting it up, and other aspects, or like somebody was deformed and they didn't find themselves, their other partner wasn't attracted to them, like weird stuff. So there's a whole spectrum of ways to get therapy for it. So there's always a possibility to make it work. But I mean, I think in the beginning of a relationship, if you don't have the love, yeah, I think it's easy to just break up with them. But if you do love each other, I think you'd work on every aspect of your relationship. And I think that's where I think a lot of us believe in the monogamy, because it's like, look, not every partner is going to be perfect at every aspect of their life. Like, I'll admit, like, I'm not the best at juggling my life sometimes, and there are certain times where, I'll close off. But to me, I think that's what, like a healthy monogamous relationship, I think can be the strongest thing in the world. But again, in life, I think poly relationships just make sense. Like I just think that both of them can make more sense. But I think if you're looking at us, we're old school. So to me, I think a healthy monogamous relationship can be forever. But if you look at the statistics, apparently it can't. So, and a lot of people are failing at it. So, hey, but I don't think there's one answer to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think sex is important to me. So if that person's not good in bed, I personally won't stay with them. Like I that would be like.
Well, if you're in love,
red flag.
No, we're talking about if you're in love.
Oh, listen, brother.
Like,
for me,
committed to them.
I don't fall in love in the first, in the second, third date when we play.
No, but dude, you know how many partners I've been with that suck in bed in the beginning, and then you just build chemistry over like 2, 3, 4 months. Like,
maybe you sucked in bed. They just built chemistry around you.
Self-projection.
You gender fluid.
Stop acting like you know these terms, like you're creating your own terms. Trying to be hip.
No, I mean, like I would know. You're telling me like I can't fall in love with someone within like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, but no. But so that means, are you giving somebody a fair shot then? Sex sometimes takes a while to get good, like to get connect with someone.
Well, it's not gonna be like the first time sex, but like the first time, every person's always gonna be nervous, depending on who it is. If someone you really
Dude, I'm
like,
the worst
then,
at the first time.
First of all,
but then after that, I'm a pro. Dude, I need to have an emotion. I need to get used to the other person's body. It takes me some time to get used to somebody.
From like a guy to a girl or a girl to a girl.
Well, you're a fuckboy. You're a fuckboy. So let's not go there, man.
This is why you have these
poly solo bitch.
This is why you have these good when you get to know someone and you're texting them or on conversation with them on the phone before you have sex with them is to get to know them on that level. Like you have sex, we call it obviously sexting, and you figure out what their kinks are, how open they are to certain things. That's what I like to find out before we actually get there. And sometimes it does happen, but I don't think I've had a woman that was horrible in maybe a couple.
Oh,
And I
what?
would just say, no, it's not going to work. It's not going
Yeah.
to work, So for me,
It's,
it's like if it's not the sex for me comes before I fall in love. Now, I don't know, and that to me because you need that for
Yeah,
me.
sex
I
does
need
make
that.
me fall harder in love with someone. It really
There you
does.
go.
yeah,
The
it
more
does.
you
Yeah.
like, sex
Right.
somehow makes the
Because
love
it's
even
like
like fucking.
It
right, and
intensifies
Like
it
that.
without a
it
doubt.
goes
Yeah.
back to what Ian said earlier about that's what differentiates a relationship, a romantic relationship, from a regular like friendship because you have that level of intimacy there. You have that physical connection with that other person. So, in order for me, I think it's such an important component to have intimacy in a relationship, and that makes the love even stronger. So for me, it's like I'm sorry, are we like in fifth grade or something that you want to tell a person I love you when there's obviously you're not doing it because you're in fifth grade. So I don't know. For me, I need that physical, intimate connection with somebody before I can fall in love with that person.
No, but you get. I feel like. Sorry, Bert, not to take over here, but I feel like you guys didn't engage the question. What would you do if the person wasn't good in bed? Not that you're not sexually active with them, but they just are not good
No,
sexually.
Oh yeah, it's
Like, what
something you're
would you
gonna
do?
try to make it better with them, but if it's
dude.
not going
But
to
if
work
you
out
love
at a certain
them,
point in time, then it's going to end. I mean, to me, sex is really sacred to me. So if it's not going to get better, then if I'm not going to enjoy it with you, it's I'm going to move on. I'm sorry, like it's sad to say, but sex to me is a big part of my life.
It's so sacred you do it in the second or third date, maybe even the first.
Well, I mean, sacred meaning like I'm gonna do one person at a time. You know what I'm saying?
There's two
Like
fuckboys
for
in this
one relationship,
chat.
one relationship.
that's that both were. Wait, why do you have
What was
balloons? What
that?
the hell is going on?
What was that?
There's always something weird happening
What is
behind
If you
you.
go, if you go like that, it does a thumbs
The
up.
two
I don't know.
fuckboys like to dress in pink.
Where those balloons come from? How'd you do that?
I don't know. Yeah. So, sex. I agree with the guys. I think sex is important, but I don't. I feel like I don't really. I don't know. Do you think, Bert? Just to turn around on you. Do you if if you met a person that you didn't have sexual compatibility with, but you liked every other aspect of them, would you stay in the relationship?
Only because I would have other partners who could fulfill that need. I don't think I could do it only with that one person.
What
But
if
I think my question was more so like that was just the first example that came to mind. But my question was more like, let's say you didn't know something about someone for a while, like your big goal in life is to travel to all these countries or something, and that person just like really hates traveling and it's really stressful for them. Something major like that, like a lifestyle sort of situation where
Then you should
everything's
have,
great
yeah.
about them except for that. Wouldn't you want to be open
that's-
to having someone to go traveling with
Yeah.
and then someone to come home to, I guess?
Yeah. No, if your partner is not open to the things your passions, that's definitely a red flag.
Yeah.
I always try to accommodate my partners, and I always ask them what they like to do. And I mean, look, at one point when I was married, I went to a ballet. You know how if you're not into ballet, you know how boring ballet is. I sat there for 4 fucking hours. I was ready to shoot myself, but somehow I ended up enjoying it because I love the person. So it's kind of to me. Yeah, I think if a partner is not willing to compromise in the relationship, that's a red flag to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think your partner should show interest in the stuff you like. I mean, they don't have to be like freaking as infatuated with you, like you're crying for Michael Jackson, and I'm not going to be running up there and be like, "Oh yeah, look at that guy, I love him." He doesn't have to have the same passion as you, but as long as he could share that moment and understand how much you like it and be there and be happy for you, I think that's all that that you need. Well, at least for me. I don't know if we're answering your question, but we're like going into other.
No, yeah, absolutely. I would agree the same way. Like, see, like Sir Ken said it really well. Like, you have to compromise, especially if you're in a mono relationship. It's all about compromise, whether you like it or not. You want to respect their interest in their space, and you want to be able to share some of that with them too. And vice versa.
So hypothetically speaking or asking, I should say, if that person were to get better, if that person were to work on that thing that you need that's not fulfilling you right now, he gets better or she gets better, and they go to therapy to get the help they need. If they perhaps need some type of medicine or something or anything, would you say, okay, you know what, let's work this out together one-on-one, just me and you, and like you said earlier, you said you were looking for that other person or the people to fulfill that need that this person wasn't giving to you. And if that person did get the help that he or she needed, would you cut off those other people?
No, because at that point I would have developed strong relationships with those other people too. And I think a lot of people just have a really limited view. It's a term called the relationship escalator, where like you get on and then you're dating for a few years and then you get engaged, then you get married, you have a house, you have kids. I think that's a really narrow view, and that's not necessarily exactly what I want. It's not necessarily what my partner wants, and I think we can still have a really fulfilling relationship even if we're not doing, like, I don't see why we would need therapy to get to a place where we can be with one. Like, I don't necessarily see that as being the goal, to be with one person. I would rather.
So you're saying, so you're saying once you go poly, you can't go back to being with Molly. It wasn't what the hell? Monogamous. He's trying to make it rhyme. I was gonna say Molly. Once you go poly, once you go poly, you can't go back to mono or monogamous.
I think, yeah, that once the mindset shift happens, like, I'm thinking about relationships completely differently. Like, even if I end up in a monogamous relationship at some point in time, my whole philosophy is gonna be totally different.
Free love.
Yeah. Because I was left really lonely when my partner initially left me. That was like 3 years ago. I just realized I don't have the social circle that I need. And I don't want to be reliant on one person for everything that I need. I would much rather be open to other people.